Welcome everyone to episode 130 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. To end the month of November, we had another part 2 episode with Mike Daley. Mike is a producer from Chicago. He's currently living in LA. And on the first episode, obviously, we talked about, his beginnings in the Underdogs in Chicago, what he learned from them, going to work with Rockie Fresh, and then eventually moving to LA and working in different studios. And now, we kind of recapped a little bit about what he's been up to, just spending some quality time with family, working with a lot more artists in South Korea. And we talked about, what he's currently doing with NCT and a few other people who he's continued to work with, the different placements he has coming up, his potential plans to do a self-released producer album eventually, which I think is going to be cool. And we also touched on Web3 and NFTs and his take on those, which is actually a pretty good take and something that I think a lot of artists will benefit from, especially if you're trying to get into the space. It's not something you want to rush into. It's something that you definitely want to have a plan for and partner with the right people for. So definitely get some gems out of that. And I really appreciate Mike once again for giving his time. It's always great to catch up with him, and I hope you guys enjoy. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, welcome everyone to episode 130 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creators Series. Today we have another part 2 episode. Producer, he was on, I believe, probably episode 21 or 22. I'd have to go back and look at the exact episode, but Chicago native, LA living, Mike Daley. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
Happy to be back.
Yeah, no, I'm great to have you back. And once again, thanks for giving your time and everything. And obviously, like we said, it's been about 2 years since that first episode. So, there might be some people that didn't hear the first episode as well. So if you could kind of just give a brief summary of, who you are and what you do for the people that either don't know who you are or they just didn't hear that first episode.
Right, yeah. My name is Mike Daley from Chicago. I've been in LA about 15 years now. But yeah, I'm kind of found a niche in the K-pop market. So I've been focusing mainly on kind of producing for these K-pop artists. And yeah, I kind of came up under some big R&B producers, the Underdogs, who are, legendary. Harvey's now the chairman of the Grammys. And yeah, I kind of came up under them from a long time, and now I'm doing my own thing. And yeah, it's actually been interesting. I think last time we talked, I'd been going out to Korea a couple times a year. And now with COVID, a lot has changed. I haven't been back since the beginning of COVID. So we're doing like a lot more kind of Zoom sessions and yeah, adapting to kind of everything changing.
Yeah. And it's crazy because that was kind of one of my first questions was because I remember last time you said even like in LA and stuff, you couldn't get into a lot of studios as well at the time. So like, how has that been?
Definitely.
Even locally, like how has that been? Have you been able to get back in some studios, like in the city at least?
Yeah, LA is pretty much back open, especially the studios. I think they shut down for about as long as they could, and then yeah, there were different levels of it. There was a time where I was getting tested before every session, and yeah, as the world's kind of opened up, the studios have gotten more and more lax. Still keeping like some of the COVID regulations and stuff. But yeah, basically LA is back in full effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super great to hear. It's just crazy to think it's been 2 years. In some days it feels like it's been longer than that. Other times it's like, oh, that wasn't really that long ago. But it kind of all depends on like where you're at as well. Because like even when
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's just definitely thrown off my perspective where something, might have been, a year or 2 years and 6 months ago, but in my head it's kind of, that was probably 6-8 months ago. Yeah. But yeah, so much time has flown by.
Yeah, exactly. So like, let's just say the last couple years, what do you think has kept you the most inspired as far as, creating new songs? Are you working on songs every day now still? Or are you just kind of kicking ideas back and forth with artists here and there when it needs done? Or like, how's that been?
Yeah, mostly I work really closely with one record label. Kind of maybe 90% of my placements are from one record label who has like a huge roster of records, and they're always putting music out. So that's something that's been great. Is month on month, I'm getting leads from them for what they need. And kind of as soon as I'm done and submitting, a week before kind of the end of the month, the next month comes and I get a new list. So definitely working on a lot of stuff for SM. That's the name of the label. And yeah, to keep kind of inspired, it's just K-pop's blowing up. So, there was a time maybe 5 years ago, even less, where it was hard to get people to write for K-pop or try to focus on a K-pop session. Now people are kind of begging to work on K-pop and solely focus on K-pop, and I'll have a session and I think I might be working on some US related, focus stuff. And because of my kind of K-pop resume or whatever, their manager is like, yo, you guys should try to do some K-pop songs. Because, I think everyone started to see how many records are being sold, how big the fan bases are. And even some of the biggest artists now, have trouble selling 100,000 records. These K-pop, groups, the big ones that are pre-sailing in the millions of hard copies. So, yeah, I think just the competition has risen a lot in the last couple of years. A lot more people are trying to get into the market. So, yeah, that's kept me inspired, just kind of trying to keep my spot within that space.
Yeah. And I remember the first episode, we talked specifically about NCT because you were working with them at the time. Have you still continued your work with them as well?
Yeah, I don't think I made the last album, but I actually was just at their concert a week or so ago when we were talking about Locking in a Day. That was the concert I had to go to. And those are always fun. You kind of mingle with the A&Rs and the executives and other songwriters and stuff. But yeah, that was fun. They performed 2 of my records, which I wasn't 100% sure if they were because it was for this new album. So I didn't know if they're going to play any of the previous album stuff. But that was amazing. That's one of the most inspiring things is like seeing the whole, they sold out the Staples Center. So seeing the whole stadium kind of go crazy as the intro comes on. And then I'm like, oh man, this is one of my songs that I worked on. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, NCT has kind of kept the ball rolling. They're a big powerhouse. And yeah, I think we've got some new stuff on the horizon. So I just don't know exactly when all of that comes out.
Yeah, that's super awesome to hear. I saw something the other day. I don't know if this is I feel like this is probably real, but I saw something about BTS where it said they have to go fulfill military obligation for Korea.
Yep.
And they won't be back until 2025 or something. So
yeah, I believe you have to do 2 years of service at some point before a certain age. So yeah, this has happened with a lot of SM groups too. I think it happened with EXO, which was almost BTS before BTS. It was a huge group that was selling millions and millions of records. But yeah, they had to, I'm pretty sure, kind of split for a couple of years. Yeah, it's a serious thing. And yeah, I think it's funny because I thought that BTS was going to get exempt. I remember seeing some stuff in the news about them kind of filing for an exemption, and I thought I had heard that certain artists, could get that, if you're a major artist and all that. But yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that report this week. But there have been rumblings about that just kind of in the K-pop industry for the last couple of years about when this kind of 2-year hiatus would be, because it's kind of, I guess it's a mandatory thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of like thought-provoking too, because I think especially over in the United States, we don't really think about stuff like that, but it's like, oh yeah, I guess that would make sense, because it's kind of just that difference in culture and everything. And then a lot of these guys are 15, 16 years old, and we don't even think about that sometimes either. So it's there's just so many different factors into it. But yeah, I think I saw it like once or twice. I didn't read into it. I just wanted to see if you knew anything about that as well, because I know that you've worked over there as well
Yeah, I
with
know
different
it's
artists and everything.
I know
So
it's true. I don't know a ton of the details
yeah,
about. I believe it's like a 2 year. I don't know, obligation
yeah,
or term or whatever it is, but yeah, it's definitely. I guess you can't, no matter who you are,
can't
you
control
kind
that.
of putting in the time
Yeah,
for Korea. So
exactly.
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So what other artists, obviously NCT, but like what other artists over there in Korea, or maybe just new independent artists that you're working with, do you want to shout out? Especially people that you've worked with this year so
Um,
far.
yeah, I'm trying to think who. I'm back in with Rockie Fresh, who's one of my best friends, and kind of how a lot of this stuff started. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to give him a shout out. And my wife Sarah Phillips has been kind of crushing the Web3 music game, which is I don't know if you've been involved in that at all, or kind of taking the dive down that
Yeah.
rabbit hole. But I've been kind of heavy in that for the last year or so too, kind of just trying to figure out what project is going to be the one that comes out. But it's been fun to work on some of this music with a lot of these independent artists who are getting support from people that where without this space they wouldn't really be getting any of the support. There's been some good money made by a lot of these independent artists. So yeah, just been keeping my eye on that. And then outside of kind of the family and friends, I'm trying to think there's a guy, there's a writer and artist, Jutes, that I think is going to have a monster year coming up, kind of building on top of this year he's had. We've been doing some songwriting stuff, and yeah, he's just really dialed in. So I'm excited to see what happens with him. And then I released my first record kind of as Mike Daley, featuring me as a producer this year with my buddy Mike J, who he wrote Chris Brown's last single, Iffy, incredible songwriter and artist. So I've got a lot of stuff kind of coming out with him, just trying to figure out how to kind of package it up and everything.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me to two different discussion points. I did want to dive into the Web3 stuff as well, because I don't think I've talked about that a lot on this podcast before. So if you have experience in that, just kind of shed light on that. Obviously, I think you did some stuff with NFT projects. I saw something you were involved with a certain type of project already, so I didn't know like how deep that went. So like, just kind of give some background on what that entails and like what opportunities have you seen come from that? Because I think people could probably benefit to hear from that as well.
Yeah, I think in terms of opportunities, there's been some really creative projects. And because everything's on the blockchain, you can kind of, like you can put music out and split it up into people's wallets, kind of with a contract, which is really interesting. So one of these projects I've been kind of a part of and invested in a little bit is Pixel Band, and basically they gave you a tempo and a key, and took submissions for, you had to make kind of stems of drums, synth, bass, and kind of vocals or effects, and everyone had to do it in the same key, into the same tempo. They kind of went through every NFT was kind of one of those stems, and then people started collecting. If you got four of vocal or effects, synth, drums, bass, you could kind of mint a band, and that would be your band. You could kind of mix it all, but in the process, all the artists who had submitted the music were getting a big chunk of these royalties. So as they're being traded and on the secondary market, they're kind of getting a percentage of all this. So it's cool just to have some musicians share in the project. But outside of that, there's been kind of launch pads for artists where because they're so curated, and a lot of them have kind of record of selling out. So a lot of artists are trying to get there, but yeah, they're able to put some money in these artists' pockets, usually ahead of a release, which will help the artists maybe market their release more or pay for the video for the release and all this stuff. But yeah, there's a big ecosystem of people that want to invest in artists and also want to help artists and kind of be involved in the beginning of their career. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it seems to be like a nice ecosystem that's very supportive for artists and producers as well.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I think I first started hearing about this on like Twitter Spaces, Clubhouse, things like that, where people started talking about, you know, NFTs and Web3 and things like that. And I think a lot of people like were diving into it. I think it's one of those things where you do kind of have to have a plan, though. I feel like the best executed ones are the ones with a plan. And like you said, they're partnered with the right people. I think a lot of people kind of jumped on it and they just wanted to do it and they didn't understand it fully. I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to, especially if you're a new artist, you kind of have to sit there and really map it out to get it right, to have it actually be effective.
Right, you can't, yeah, I agree. You can't necessarily treat it like a quick cash grab. I think the people who have been productive in the space have done like some cool stuff, and that's kind of is what gets people talking, almost more than the song.
Yeah.
Like itself, it's a lot of the kind of the package, the project, the story behind it. That really has been effective for people.
Yeah, really just creating that full experience around everything you're doing, and just giving fans a different side of it.
So like Sarah's kind of like written into her contracts that if you get one of these NFTs, you get like a 2-hour Zoom writing session with her. You also get 2 tickets to her concert. And I think just the perks you could kind of add to these NFTs and kind of build your fan base and give back, kind of make it valuable in some way, is the people that are doing that, giving back, it seems to be really kind of snowballing and compounding for those people.
Yeah, and you can inject your personality into that. And I think that's what the best artists are doing. So that's definitely awesome. So my other question...
Sure,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's tough. I think people think like, okay, I'll drop a project and sell a bunch of NFTs, make some money, and then people will be happy. But it's like, no, all those people that bought that are going to want to, talk to you and figure out what's going on. So yeah, it's definitely something you have to plan out and be mindful of, or else, you kind of get looked at like you're just trying to take advantage of people.
Exactly. It's just like anything else you do as an artist. You really want to, think about it and just have a real plan. Just don't come at it blindly. So my other question was regarding, you just said you had a song that, had your name on it, self-release type deal. So I'm kind of curious as well, like, are you eventually going to do maybe a project that has like artists featured on it that's kind of like a self-release thing? Have you ever thought about doing that in the near future, or is that kind of something that you hadn't thought about before?
No, definitely. I've been thinking about that for the last 10 years and just kind of never pulled the trigger on it. I have kind of in what we do when we're working with these artists, there's so many levels to kind of you making the beat, you getting a demo, the artist cutting the record, and that's not even close to being to the final product, even when you have the artist singing your song. So there's been a ton of times, right, like where I have some pretty big artists and haven't made the album, but have something I think was a pretty good song. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to figure it out. The Web3 space let me kind of test some stuff out, which has been fun. And yeah, I'm kind of going to use that to launch into some new stuff, releasing some more records. And yeah, just having more fun. I'll make 300 songs in a year, if not more, and in a good year, maybe 30 of those will come out. So there's a ton of music that just kind of sits on my computer, or I even just forget about. So yeah, I'm kind of planning on doing something with that, kind of in between Calvin Harris and DJ Khaled, like kind of a mix in between those two genres.
Yeah, and I love that, like, albums from producers, even like EPs, they'll like partner with one artist and kind of just make an EP or something, or they'll do the full compilation where they'll have different artists come in and just do all these different records and then put it out under their name. It's like we're kind of in that era now where, you know, there's so many different ways to put out the same song. You know what I mean? As long as like all the parties are in agreement of like, we can put it out like this under this person's name. It's like, why would you know, waste all the music? You know, like you said, it's kind of like it's just going to collect dust either way. So you might as well just figure out creative ways to put it out and just, I definitely like that. And like you said, with Web3 and stuff, there's so many options now. So, but yeah, definitely looking forward to that if you ever do it. So like, I'll be on the lookout, man, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on it. I'm just, I'm trying to do it the right way so it, you know, it reaches people and has some type of impact.
Yeah, the timing is everything for something like that, especially. So, yeah. So, you know, other than like music and stuff, like, what do you think you've been doing to kind of just free your mind from everything recently? Going on walks, just family time. Like, what has kind of been a good way to, you know, free your mind? At least the last like few months, at least.
Yeah, I definitely have been going on walks. I try to go on a walk every day, get like at least 3 miles, and I hike a lot too, but I've rolled my ankle the last like 5 times I've hiked.
Oh, man.
Same ankle. I think it's weak. So yeah, it's been tough. It keeps swelling up. But yeah, I love to try to get outside. Being in LA is incredible. It's almost, you know, perfect weather every day. So it's nice to go outside. I love going for drives on the PCH, put the top down and turn some music up. And then, most of the rest of the time I'm spending it with family. Both my sisters have, you know, somewhat new babies. And my wife's family as well, a couple new babies. So I've definitely been spending a lot of time with the family whenever we go somewhere. And then, just getting out of LA. I just went to Joshua Tree for the weekend, which was beautiful. I love going out there, kind of just relaxing. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Besides that, I love sports. I watch sports almost every night. I sports bet a lot. So yeah, the music, I do a lot of stuff kind of outside of the music to try to kind of keep me level. I tweeted about it the other day. There's so many people out here that like one song kind of makes and breaks their career, and they kind of live off that song. And as soon as that song's out, it's almost like a timer starts ticking for this time that song's not cool anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people get really high when they have a release, and they're really depressed after it comes out. And you know, the next Friday there's gonna be another big song and another huge marketing campaign. And it's tough. I think I try to stay pretty level. I think people expect me to get more excited when I have a release, and I'm kind of like, okay, cool, like, all right, now we got to get the next one is my mentality. But yeah, it kind of keeps me like I celebrate my wins when I can, but not I don't let it kind of make me when I get a song out. But yeah, it's interesting to see that out here. I think there's a lot of depressed producers and songwriters in LA that kind of get too high and too low within the industry.
Yeah, it's all about keeping a level head, I think, and it definitely is hard to do. I actually just saw an interview. I don't know this guy's name, but he's a jazz pianist, and I saw this interview on YouTube, and he said something in the interview where he was like, "We are not like musicians. Like, that's not who we are as people." He's like, "We do music, but we're people, we're human beings." He's like, "That's just part of who we are." So it's like, you can't make that your entire, everything you're about and just cut everything else out, because it's not going to go very well. You know what I mean? Even if things are in your career going like extremely well, it's like you're going to get burnt out pretty quick. So I've found that myself, because like I even started out just like super just about the music and nothing else. And then I was like, I need to have other parts of life that I enjoy, or else it's not going to be very fun. You know, every day is not going to be very fun. So I definitely.
And it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough every Friday, you know, every Friday my whole Instagram is writers and producers and stuff. You know, it's the community I'm in. So every Thursday night, every Friday, my Instagram is full of my peers and their accomplishments, the new song they have out and everything. So I get how that can be tough.
Yeah.
And you know, you want to say that you're always happy for other people, but I know that isn't the case for everyone. I'm definitely happy when my friends are getting cuts and all that stuff, but there are definitely songs that come out where I hear that and I'm like, wow, they picked this song as a single? Like, that's interesting. But yeah, it's tough, but it's also kind of what you were saying is like, I have almost imposter syndrome sometimes because I wasn't in the choir since 3rd grade, and I wasn't playing piano since I was 5 years old, and I wasn't, you know, it's not, my whole life wasn't dedicated to get to where I'm at right here. And I don't only think about this all the time. So there are a lot of people out here where it's like, that's it, that's everything for them. And I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the wrong thing. It's just my approach is just a little different than that. But yeah, also some of those guys are the best at what they do, right? So it's interesting. But yeah, I always kind of feel like, not always, but yeah, sometimes I feel I'm like, wow, maybe I got pretty lucky to get here where I'm at. I'm around people that have been practicing for years and years and years to get here. So yeah, it's always interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's like that bigger picture type. You just got to keep it all in mind. But I'm jealous of the LA weather thing, man, because like, it's turning so bad here in Ohio. We're done. We're locked in for like 9 months of cold, man. Like,
oh man,
it's crazy.
I can't do it. I love Chicago too, but I can't do the cold anymore.
It's crazy because
to Montreal.
Yeah, I was out in Dallas
that's
and
cold
it's like 80 degrees every day. I'm walking around in short sleeves, and then in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is gonna be it. I'm not gonna be able to do this again until like June.
Yeah.
Oh,
wait,
man.
so you went to some Cowboy games?
I did. I went to the Washington game.
Oh,
so a good game.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, that was cool.
We look all right.
Man, we do. We'll get over that loss Sunday. We'll get over that.
Yeah,
I think
we'll
be
get them
all
back.
right.
We'll get them back around Christmas.
Yeah, I almost forgot you were Cowboys family over here.
I'm diehard.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm diehard.
We might have to talk later about that as well. But last couple questions here. What else can we expect maybe before the end of the year? Obviously, you can't probably reveal everything, but is there anything we should be on the lookout for within the next 2.5 months before 2023?
Yeah, so I just had a song, like a music video, come out with Lay, who is like Justin Timberlake or Justin Bieber in China. He's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Chinese artists. So I was really excited about that. Whenever someone does a music video for your song, it's like kind of like icing on the cake. So I was really excited about that. I've got a couple more K-pop songs coming out. I probably shouldn't say what group, but yeah, with a boy group, and I think some girl records as well. And I'm trying to think. I'm kind of in like 2023 pregame mode right now, so just kind of getting everything together. Trying to get like 1 or 2 more cuts, hopefully, before the end of the year. But everything really kind of slows down in the next couple weeks. Yeah. Kind of
the holidays.
Thanksgiving is a wrap. Everyone's budget is that's a little interesting thing too, is the end of the year is tough. Like everyone's budget's up. There's no kind of money to pay producers or writers anymore, and everyone is kind of just gearing up for the top of the year where the new budget opens, and then you try to take advantage of that.
Exactly.
So that's kind of where I'm at now. Thankfully, the K-pop stuff is on a different timetable, and they just release so much music that the industry doesn't shut down like it does in LA. It'll be like a ghost town out here in about a month.
Yeah. It's like a fourth quarter slump. It's weird, but it makes sense. like economically a little bit. So
yeah,
but
yep.
So do you have any final words of wisdom today for the listeners?
Yeah, I would say there's so many friends of mine that are incredible writers and producers, and financially in a tough spot because of a contract or a manager or a lawyer that might have kind of steered them the wrong way. It's kind of crazy how many writers out here in LA can't, are check to check or barely month to month. So yeah, I guess I would just say you got to do your homework and your research on the contracts you're signing, on the managers you're signing with, and the lawyers you're signing. I think there's a lot of people that are like dying to say they have a manager, and then all of a sudden 20% of everything you're doing is going to them. And yeah, it's tough when you do. There's just so much kind of predatory behavior in the music industry. So I just want to make people kind of aware that year after year, the older I get out here, kind of the more I'm, seeing, the more I learn about stuff. And yeah, it's tough. It's kind of crazy how many people that don't make music are making more money than the people that make music out here. So yeah, I don't necessarily have specific advice, but I would just say just be cautious in jumping into any contracts, especially with lawyers and managers. I think a lot of people kind of tend to think that we work for them, but yeah, just kind of boss up and don't sign with a manager until it's the right fit for you. And same with lawyers. I think there's a lot of people that just kind of go through the motions that aren't really taking care of clients and stuff. So that would kind of be my biggest thing. It's just kind of do your research in terms of that, because you can make the best track or the best song or whatever, and then you can get screwed out of it really easily out of your kind of earnings from it. So
yeah, exactly, and definitely very important. So thank you for sharing that. And Mike, man, that's all I have for you today. Once again, man, thanks for joining me. And we might do like part 3 eventually. I don't even know, but thanks again, man.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully I get some more cool stuff that I can talk about. And then, we'll do a part 3. A good friend of mine who's kind of putting together just a website where a lot of writers and producers would come to get a lot of this information. So a lot of what I was saying about publishing or lawyers, managers, and stuff is on there, and they give grants to songwriters and producers and stuff. So yeah, just a friend of mine who's doing great work for the songwriter community that I wanted to give a shout out to, and like a ton of information that you could pick up from the website.
Thanks everyone for listening today. That was episode 130. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds. Feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. So we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.